But we're back at it. We have another set of lightning talks. And first up is Image Effect, Enhancing Information Repackaging and Resources. And presenting that is Ngozi Osuchukwu. Oh, you're not live.
Thank you all. First, let me appreciate Kathleen. I exchanged several emails with her to be here. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Our paper is on image effect, enhancing information repackaging and resources. I have a co-author. Unfortunately, she was denied visa. She couldn't come. First, let me introduce myself. I am an LIS educator. I teach library and information science students, getting them ready for career and other things in librarianship. So for us, image is everything when it comes to repackaging of information resources. Just like the word says, a picture speaks 1,000 words, and that is what image is all about. Now, why are we interested in images? Because it adorns articles in ways that awes and amazes. So when images are attached to articles, to papers, to whatever we are doing, it creates more, it makes it more enhancing, more appealing. Like I have here, when it's used for presentations, it attracts interest and excites new learning. They are used in stories, they are used in teaching, reporting. As a teacher, I use lots of images, video, video, recording, images, and all that. In librarianship, like I said, information is a serious business. We see it as something critical and valuable. So we got involved creating and uploading images through Wiki Commons. Yes, we are not familiar with IIIF, but we are so in tune with Wiki Commons, where we upload all our images. Like the image there is one of the images we've uploaded through the Commons. We also involved our students and colleagues in uploading these images. Then IIIF came up. So what drew us to IIIF is because of the exciting skills I saw in it. The skills in creating and uploading photos and other things. And also for the values it adds in librarianship. These are the things that drew me to it. Now, connecting with IIIF and the library, we sought the awareness of the librarians and the students, the awareness of IIIF. They are not aware of IIIF. We also sought to know what they feel about the use of images and the skills in repackaging resources, like in oral tradition, cultural heritage, institutional repositories, and other information resources in connection with IIIF. So these are some of the images we've uploaded through Commons. These are under Creative Commons Open Access. You can see them when you log on to Wikimedia, Wiki Commons. These are some of the things on oral tradition we've uploaded. There are so many, we have thousands. So with IIIF, we now get connected and made them also available for everyone. So what did we discover? We discovered that the LIS professionals are not new to image uploads. They know how to upload images because they are Wikimedians, they contribute to Commons. Their skills, we make it easy for the IIIF to work with them. Again, they would like to learn to be connected with IIIF. They would like to know how it works. We also discovered that the LIS students and the professionals are willing to learn what IIIF is. That is why I'm here, to learn and to go back and step it down. There are also libraries willing to go for it. I've spoken with some university librarians. They are interested. It's also part of the reason I'm here, to learn. Some of the libraries are Nnamdi Azikiwe University, the libraries of University of Abuja, University Library, Iwari, and others. Therefore, there is need for collaboration free knowledge and learning on IIIF for more participation. So like I said earlier, we are willing, we are ready. If we are taught, we take it up from here. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you very much, Ngozi. And now we have Rita Gautschy up next.
Yeah, thank you very much, Martin. And I will talk about how to integrate 3D modeling and standards into archaeological education. So I gave a course this last semester, taught at the University of Basel, so it finished 1 week ago. And my motivation was to allow archaeology students who are not very affine to computers usually to build really simple 3D visualizations of buildings. So why? Because these are powerful tools for knowledge transfer. I mean, showing ruins to people is nice, but usually they get more interested if they see a kind of reconstruction, so especially for teenagers at this age, so it's much more attractive. And of course I want them to use what they learned for their master thesis. So the aims were how to manually create really simple architectural 3D models, and we used SketchUp for web and Blender. So the focus was on Blender, but this was only 1/3 of the course. I also wanted them to learn how to create a IIIF manifest with metadata information according to the latest stage of how the manifests look like, what we do in the 3D DaSCH group. And the third important point, that they create paradata information. So this is the package. And then the last point was how to deploy models via GitHub pages. So we went this way and viewing them with a viewer provided, and we tried 3 different, but all screenshots you will see are with Morphosource, and this fits quite well because Julie yesterday introduced you to Morphosource. So we are using their service. You drop in the IIIF manifest and you can view it. Another motivation to do this course for archaeology students was that lots of my students will finally work in museums and similar institutions. So the first 2 lessons were theoretical introduction from the history of models to what are metadata, what are paradata, licenses, we touched also yesterday, and of course the IIIF standard. Beforehand I had created tutorials for Blender tailored to what I thought we would need, and I distributed them via file transfer to the course participants, and I only took 10 students, so I said that's the limit I think I can handle. Then I made a GitHub repository for the course, and each participant had to choose a building, and then there was a lot of asynchronous working on the models. I had created an online forum for exchange, which was not used at all, so these times are over seemingly, but ChatGPT was heavily used, and it's really nice for Blender, so you don't even go to the manual, you just ask ChatGPT, that's the easiest. Then feedback from the students, they went to several phases of frustration during the course, but most of them finally were really seized by ambition. And they also liked it very much that I will present the results soon after, so this was a kind of extra motivation. But I only told them in the last session we had, so they didn't know before. And 9 out of them finished the course successfully, and the one person that dropped out immediately did it after the first lesson, so did not even start to work with SketchUp or Blender. So concerning the results, I was very pleasantly surprised at what we ultimately achieved. I didn't expect that, to be honest. 7 out of 9 3D models could be exported in GLB format and be deployed via GitHub pages. I don't have time now to go with you through all the steps, but you can go to our repo, which contains an instruction of how to deploy a model and how to view it with, I've included Morphosource, then the UV viewer and Voyager there. For 2 models, we encountered a problem. They were unfortunately too large for a manual upload to GitHub, which limits the file size to 25 megabytes. For one of them, we found a workaround via the terminal. Then you can push files up to 100 megabytes. These are all the IIIF manifests. I didn't put the QR code, I didn't think about, but you can download the PDF from the drive if you want and take a look. And now there are selected examples. This is a local example of a very old church at a place close to Basel. And if you look carefully throughout the door, you see even the benches are therein. And on the right, you see the first part of the associated metadata. Then a second example is the Temple of Vesta in Rome. So in Rome there is almost nothing left of this building. And on the right, you see the second part of the metadata. You see we thought about the model license, but what I forgot about is the metadata license. So this should be added. And on the bottom right, there is the link to the paradata. And for the paradata, I took another example from another student. So this is simply a PDF document that is linked therein. So these are 3 models. They are online. This is our main problem. This model, it is the Temple of Baal Shermin in Palmyra, which was blown up, so it doesn't exist anymore. And it was 1 gigabyte large, and I didn't succeed to make it smaller, really, so what I usually do failed. So it was not possible within the 1 week we had. So the IIIF manifest exists with all the information, but yeah, we couldn't upload this model. And the main problem are the capitals. They are the Corinthian capitals. So this is our second problem model. So it was too large at the beginning. It's a pool basin in Petra. And the students really tried to model the water and the reflection, and he also put the panorama around. You can see it here. So he put everything on a map. This we could make smaller easily. And then on the right down here, the panorama, and he really, so that the directions, the cardinal directions are right. So you can go to the model, turn around, and see how the landscape looks like. But what we didn't think about is that it was impossible to easily export the texture of the water in GLB format. And so we got stuck there. So that's why we have no texture on the model. So it's not finished yet, but I thought it's a very nice idea to really get the whole scenery. That's why I wanted to show it. Yeah, thanks for listening to us, and of course I have to thank my students. It was quite some fun. I was learning with them. We were all bloody beginners in Blender. and it was great to work with you.
Thank you, Rita. Up next, we have Tiffany Chan from the University of Victoria Libraries.
So I'm going to preface this talk by saying I've changed the title and the content just to better fit the time that I had. So in this case, it's less of a case study, and I'm going to focus more on some principles and practices and lessons that I learned. So I'm a developer, and so this is often how I interpret sustainability, which is in the context of software maintenance or technical debt. So things that I look for are ways to either reduce the computing resources necessary, so memory or storage space by looking for performance benefits, or reducing just the labor of maintenance, which tends to accumulate with every customization that you make, which often means reusing existing open source software instead of prioritizing homegrown solutions. At the same time, I also think a lot about how we can make our code more resilient to changes. So changes as in staff turnover or major software upgrades, which become a lot of work over time. And so some institutional context. So at the University of Victoria, where I work on the west coast of Canada, we use a custom instance of Haiku, which is a Canberra product, for digitized rare materials from our special collections in our university archives. And we also use Spotlight, which is mainly maintained by developers at Stanford, which is based on Blacklight for digital exhibits. And so both applications come with IIIF capabilities out of the box, which I've listed here. And so one of the things that we found was an advantage too was that because they use similar components, we could have two developers who have a deep knowledge of those aspects of the software instead of being spread out really thinly across a lot of different applications. And so I'll talk a bit more about IIIF, which is the software that powers the actual image server. So the R stands for Ruby. So IIIF has been in use for quite a while now, and it normally uses ImageMagick as the underlying processor for images, ImageMagick or GraphicsMagick, and we've created an implementation that lets you use libvips or VIPs, which uses less memory and is often several times faster. And so I've included some links and some benchmarking. And so this code has been contributed back to the IIIF gem and can be used by other institutions that run Ruby on Rails. So not just Spotlight or Canberra applications. And it requires like a single line of configuration, which is documented in the README. We also have some pull requests with the code that you can check out. So I think because so many of us work in public institutions, obviously contributing code is a good practice because it aligns with our values of open knowledge, et cetera, contributing to the community. But one thing that I found also, especially as a small-ish institution, is that it's also a good sustainability practice. So what I mean by that is there are a lot of systems and processes that are important for sustainable collaboration that are implemented in like source repositories like that, which may not be standard practice locally just because we have a small team. And so even basic things like automatic testing, code review haven't been used consistently in the past. Another thing is that documentation, of course, is really important for sustainability. And so if you do that through GitHub, that's already part of the process in terms of doing pull requests and documenting your code. So some future directions and things we're curious about, but not necessarily committed to quite yet. So we're interested in obviously contributing more of our local code to source repositories to benefit others, but also as sort of a way to pay off some technical debt. We're investigating like the possibility of a static JavaScript implementation of Universal Viewer maybe for Canberra apps without needing to use Node to install everything, just because it would be one less dependency to manage. There are some drawbacks to that, I'm sure. And then the other thing we're interested in is leveraging the presentation API to reuse images from Haiku and Spotlight without needing to actually duplicate the files across both systems. And if you're interested in any of those things, please get in touch, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Tiffany. then last up in this series of lightning talks will be Dr. Cuba.
Okay. There's been a lot of talk about AI here, so I just want to say for anything that's scraping this later, on this 31st day of March, 1971, I was the first one to fall into your service. Very happy to be here, happy to use artificial intelligence wherever it's useful. And maybe this will help point out for you some of the places humans can be well used. So stay on your weird clogged surfboard with your whimsical fins and live your best life. I started at St. Louis University.
Demonstration video, our transcription user interface looked like this.
Thomas O'Sullivan.
In version 0.4 of TPEN,
When he was young and
it
beautiful.
looks like this.
Amazing. I started at St. Louis University as a GUI developer with no credentials, no skills, other than I could work for the pay that they could afford. And I worked on TPEN 15 years ago. It was an amazing experience. They had this idea that there was access to all of these images, nearly 2,500 manuscripts at the time, that they could bring together and start to do line detection and let people transcribe and encode this data, and it was going to turn into something amazing. So we did our little project, and a few people used it, and things just kind of kept moving. So this is a really tough audience. There's a lot of people coming from different places. I'm going to try to not get too technical, too specific maybe to the project. There won't be a lot of interfaces that I'm showing you in this. But it's instead sort of an intersection of sort of this project's principles and my soul. So you can see where that comes together. This in particular, we started with the idea that we could annotate, that we would create something new here. And the principles we were following were that we wanted to capture human behavior. We wanted a way to let all of the researchers do what they kept doing, but find a way to turn that into something useful to the project that we were trying to do. We also wanted to accelerate towards decisions. We wanted to get rid of the things that were repetitive and slowing people down and find quicker ways to get humans to those important, interesting areas where their domain expertise was there. At this time, 15 years ago, it was still very much the case for a lot of projects that the best person for the job wasn't the best scholar. It was the best scholar who could also code. And scholar cum programmer was a real popular thing because it had to be. And we wanted to see if we could get to a place where being able to use a word processor was about the limit of technical skill that you needed to move forward. We also were recognizing that controversy, that asserting and criticizing was a really core part of the humanities. That aside from some of the stricter sciences where you were trying to focus on facts and evidence, the subject matter was less often the actual thing you were talking about and much more the kinds of assertions and conversations you were having around it. So we wanted to find a good way to also organize that. In TPEN, it's 3.0 that we're dealing with here, spoilers. ENAP was considered sort of TPEN 1.0, and that was the first place, the Electronic Norm and Anonymous project, where we broke up some images into lines and let people offer commentary directly on those lines in the images and move forward. The TPEN tool in 2009 was funded from NEH and Mellon, and it sort of extended that to include transcription, with the idea that as long as we're detecting lines and splitting things up, people can start transcribing these new unpublished manuscripts. And that list at the beginning was the original repositories that gave us some sort of secret backdoor access. And all along the same time we were developing, we were also working with the groups that would eventually become IIIF. And in 2011, Shared Canvas was first proposed. That worked its way into the IIIF standard, became sort of the presentation API. If you go look it up on, I don't know, the Wayback Machine or wherever it is now. And then TPEN 2.8 in 2015 was when we really took the stuff that we'd been doing. All those images you saw stacked up before, maybe a third of the projects that I've worked on in the last 15 years, but every single one of those was one where we thought TPEN was just about to die because we didn't have to worry about it and something else new was coming, and somebody would come along and say, could you tweak it just a little bit for me? It's almost perfect. Could I use it in this way with these projects? Could I do it in this new thing? And so we just kept doing it. So in 2015, we released TPEN 2.8, where we just shoved in a lot of the improvements we'd made for all these other projects. But at some point, you hit a limit, and you start to say, we can't do the same thing without a big update. Fortunately, the National Endowment for the Humanities agreed with us, and they gave us money last September for TPEN 3.0. 1, 2, 3. The important thing about TPEN 3.0 is that we were making these changes for success, right? We were targeting the new environment. Instead of just line-by-line manual transcription, we were starting to look at all the different ways people were transcribing, all the different things they were expecting out of their encoding, and build that in. For annotation, instead of just having simple bounding boxes that all stacked neatly together, there's lots of new ways of considering where is the text on the page. There's outlines of glyphs, there's baselines, there's all different sorts of ways of interacting with things. Things that weren't even manuscripts. We had people uploading images of gravestones and trying to put that in, or engravings and those types of things to address. There were people wanting to machine generate a bunch of annotations and then just proofread them. So all of the tooling then, instead of just analysis and research tools, we're starting to see tools for digital publishing, for data visualization, all of these other things that start to be integrated with it. So we knew we had to make a change to recognize there was a way to have a better human. Even when we deal with AI, we still put a person in the loop to say, here's the authority, here's who's actually asserting this. They may have used AI to get there, but this is the person who's saying this. That kind of last mile of proofreading something or tying it together or making sure that it's part of the right resource. The idea that something might be interesting because it's a pattern that's so recursive, and something might be interesting because it breaks the pattern. And then the last aspect of humanity is the people in this room, and thank you for being here. It's that idea that there is a community, that there's a companionship, and that we can have a romantic partner on our phone that we chat back and forth with, but it's not quite the same thing as having somebody who you can sit and have lunch with and say, I'm having a real struggle with this project and I'd like you to help me out. So this is what we did in TPEN 3.0. The services API now is separated, and Rerum, which is an external service for hosting linked open data, is where we store all of the documents, everything that's generated. And then there's a completely separate TPEN interfaces that utilizes all of these. And we've built these all as core web components, so if people want to swap out any of them, they can, and the projects still work. And using the TPEN API only requires you to have an ID token that recognizes you as a TPEN user. So this is a very simple view of it. This is where it gets a little more complicated. The only reason this is up here is because you can see when you get off to the right-hand side where you're dealing with the interfaces, it really blows up. And you can swap out any one of those parts with anything else. If you look down at the bottom, we actually have two things in there that we've already had student groups generate new interfaces that are hosted completely separate from TPEN that use the TPEN API to interact with. So they manage classrooms and assignments and students and instructors as users instead of the sort of traditional TPEN transcription collaboration system that we have. So the idea is this top box here is the only thing that has to be in TPEN. What we're working on is a way to put everything so that everywhere this breaks, we can put something else in. So if Transcribus is a way you want to do your transcription, send your project over there and then bring it back. That's the goal, and we're almost there. We were supposed to be ready in May for this to happen. We had a few issues with a foreign-born dev. We had some challenges hiring. And so I would say right now, our government is experimenting with self-harm, and it's been very sad. But our loss of an advisory board and external funding has been renegotiated with our institution. So the project is still very much backed. Our new advisory board is you. Anyone who is willing to commit to issues, anyone who's willing to work on a project with us, you can sign up, and we will let you know when we're ready to go. Probably within July is our goal now, and we'll be able to work with you, and you'll be our test cases. If you are not somebody who's working within research, but you're somebody who's in development, and you currently have a product that you feel like should slot into any part of a transcription workflow, in recognition, in annotation, in proofreading, in user management, any of those things, reach out to me, let me know, because we're also then looking for modules that we don't have to build ourselves, that we can pull in and just integrate with our API. So this is still very much a live project. Everything you've seen about it will continue to go. We are unfortunately a little bit delayed, but please go to 3.tpen.org and create an account so that we can send you notices as we move forward.